Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. Today's video we are discussing the Antony allegations that have obviously been dominating their headlines this week. Of course, we already know about one of them. It's been dominating, but in the past day or so, two more victims or alleged victims have come forward in the case against Antony, the Brazilian winger, currently playing for Manchester United, of course. And it doesn't make for great reading when you look at it on its surface. One claims an assault took place in England last year, and that person is actually going on Brazilian TV to discuss and talk about the incident this weekend, whilst another one alleged that she went to Sao Paulo police in May of last year to report the incident, and of course now it's seemingly only being brought more to light. Before we go any further, I want to say that, of course, with these types of stories and situations, that these need to be talked about and handled with the utmost care and consideration. It is a very delicate and sensitive topic, so of course I'll try and give it the utmost respect and care that of course it deserves. And I hope right off the bat that there's nothing to these allegations. Of course there isn't, mainly and obviously because that way there is no victim in what is obviously being alleged as to being a horrible and horrific crime. So I hope in that regard there is absolutely nothing to these allegations in that sense. But of course, like I say, after the week that Antony and Manchester United have had, these kind of allegations and things like that are coming out, and there are layers to this story as well, and there's more components to these stories. They do not make for interesting or great reading for the club or the player in general. So I want to start off by saying that I don't want any of this stuff to be real, don't want any of this to be true, but like I say, we have to talk and we have to at least acknowledge that these are being put out there in the public domain. Like I say, the two new allegations arrive in the midst of an allegation which is already out there and has already opened up this whole case. Antony's girlfriend, of course, or ex-girlfriend now, claimed to be assaulted by the winger on several occasions, and had went on this week to tell the world basically that she and her lawyers claim that the club tried to cover it up. Yes, Manchester United alleged to have tried to cover this whole story up. In what, like I say, has been a terrible week for Manchester United, both on and off the pitch. On the pitch, losing to Arsenal on Sunday. What followed it in the aftermath was, of course, the Jadon Sancho stuff, hitting out at the manager in public on social media. The news story coming out that a convicted paedophile was in attendance and made special guest of honour for a Manchester United women's game. And now all of this stuff happening to Antony, the club being brought into it. It has been an absolute madness at Manchester United. And like I say, certainly not in a funny ha-ha way. More, I can't believe this is actually happening. I genuinely cannot believe any of this stuff has happened. And some of it, a couple of it is laughable, but it's not laughable to be insensitive to, of course, the victim or anything like that. The bit that makes me sort of laugh in disbelief is obviously the part of the convicted paedophile being the guest of honour for Manchester United. A former Manchester United ladies manager in Jeff Konopka, I might be pronouncing that name wrong, was the manager of Manchester United women's team between 1983 and 2001, and in 2011 he was sentenced to 4 years in prison for convicted of indecent assault and gross indecency against girls under the age of 16. That happened 12 years ago. And Manchester United decided to give him a guest of honour spot at a Manchester United women's game, like adding insult to injury on that point, for a convicted paedophile who was convicted of indecent acts against girls under the age of 16. Baffling. The club claimed to have no knowledge about that at all. The club claimed that they didn't know that he was convicted and then decided to cut all ties with him. I find it hard to believe, and I'll go on to why I find it hard to believe a little later. The Antony stuff, though, is obviously now all out there. I refuse to comment on it straight away without knowing slightly more about it, reading a bit more into it, trying to gather the thoughts and kind of what other people were kind of gauging at in this, which is why I've left it a few days. And obviously, as the week has continued, more and more things have come out, and it's started to snowball in that regard. But the Antony stuff, like I say, is mad in itself. One has now turned into seemingly 3 women coming out and claiming several times that he has assaulted them or done something to them in a horrible, horrific way. His girlfriend's allegations seem to stem from the 15th of January of this year, and the whole cover-up story seems to stem from that date in particular, because that's where she claims that the cover-up began. A club doctor was called out to assess seemingly her injuries, as she claims, and she also went on to claim that because it was through a club doctor, it was all covered up. It would have been more suspicious had they gone to a regular hospital to deal with those kinds of injuries. And that's where the club cover-up story comes in. United have come out and claimed that United did send out a club doctor to Antony at the request of him to obviously assess his girlfriend at the time. But they deny any kind of cover-up. They state it as being categorically false in all that regard. So, again, for right now at least, it seems to be her word against the club's and against Antony's. United followed that up with, of course, the fact that player and family welfare is important and is not anything to be suspicious about or anything that is against the norm at other clubs. Clubs normally have doctors on hand to care to players and to care to family members of those players and keeping them in good health and all of that stuff. Obviously, because they are their players, so it's not out of the norm for that. But she claims that obviously, like I say, there were things happened that night that went on and that were horrible, and the club tried to cover up or tried to shush her up in terms of coming out against one of their players, and obviously trying to get them done in by the law and everything. So that's what she claims. United deny it. They say it's categorically false. Look, this case now and all of these other cases have gone to the court of public domain, and they're going to be even more so when, of course, the interview occurs this weekend with one of the alleged victims going on Brazilian TV to seemingly talk about what she put out and what she talked to the police about, which is, again, another weird layer to this story. I don't know how they do things in Brazil, but that just seems a little bit weird to me that you're going to go on public TV and discuss it when it's being taken up by a police matter. Just seems a bit strange, but that might be something else completely. There are going to be people out there that are going to say he's guilty right off the bat. There are going to be people out there like me that say innocent until proven guilty. It's all right having these allegations and we should take them seriously, of course. But that doesn't necessarily mean he's done anything wrong. Now, of course, everything that's coming out this week in regards to this story does look incredibly bad. And when you throw in all these other things that are going on with the club, and when you think about everything that's going on with the player, all the allegations, everything adding up, it doesn't look good for either the club or Antony. But of course, like I say, it's innocent until proven guilty. If there is enough evidence, he will be charged and he will go to court. And of course, he'll have his day in court, and then we will see where things go from there. I just overall see it as incompetence from the club. And there have been a lot of people calling out for due diligence. I can't even say it, my bad. Due diligence from this club. I apologize. I completely butchered it. I'm like really stupid. As fans, we can only judge a player based on their ability and what they show on a pitch week in, week out. Unless we actually know the player inside and out, we can only judge them on their footballing ability. As a club, they get the privilege and the power and the ability to obviously see the bigger picture, which they need to see more of. Not just about the player's ability, but it's about their personality. It's about how well they interact with other players. It's about how professional they are. Are they the life and soul of the party? Are they quiet and reserved? Do they have a tendency to go a bit overboard and get themselves into trouble? Are they the model professional? How do they react around fans? How do they react in public? Are they quiet and reserved? Are they loud and aggressive? That kind of thing. They have the privilege and the power and the authority to do that. And to obviously look at the bigger picture when it comes to how a player will bed in. Not just in terms of their style of play and their philosophy and everything, but in terms of how they'll fit in with the dressing room, how they'll fit in with the overall kind of family kind of aspect that the club sort of pushes forward, or any club pushes forward, that we are a family. The fans are part of the family, the tea ladies part of the family, the coaches, the staff members, the board, everybody's like a big family. How are they going to react by being adopted into this sort of metaphorical family, if you like? That is what every club has the privilege to look at. And in terms of this aspect, you've got to look at it and be like, how have United let this slip? Especially the claim that was made about an alleged offence already being committed in Brazil of last year before a transfer was made. Remember, Antony moved last year. And allegedly an offence was put in to Sao Paulo police in May of last year. So how come United didn't do any sort of research into that? How come they didn't do their sort of research into Antony and find that out? It's baffling to me. It's baffling to me that would happen, and why they wouldn't kind of take it seriously or not, or what the full story is there. It just seems a strange situation there, considering, like I say, one offence was allegedly logged in over a year ago before United purchased Antony and before he even moved on from his previous club. It just seems strange to me. It just seems strange to me that they didn't get to look at that bigger picture. I've got a question as well, why the lack of communication from United's side has been so bleak. I understand that there are confidentiality matters. I understand that obviously the police are working on this and everything. But United's statement, which basically read, Manchester United acknowledges the allegations made against Antony and notes that the police are conducting inquiries. Pending further information, the club will be making no further comment. As a club, we are taking this matter seriously with consideration of the impact of these allegations and subsequently reporting will have on survivors of abuse. I understand where they're coming from, but the lack of anything from United is sort of strange to me. I know it's been a tough week for them. I know it's been a horrible week, but at the same time, the longer they leave it with seemingly radio silence, the more it's going to create scrutiny when they do eventually put something out there. Brazil have already dropped Antony from their squad. I don't understand how United haven't done the same either. United, in my opinion, do need to suspend Antony for the foreseeable future until obviously all this gets resolved, because it doesn't look good on the club, doesn't look good on the player. He's going to be absolutely berated if he's going to be in the lineup against Brighton. There's going to be all eyes and the wrong kind of eyes on him and on the club and everything. And like I say, from a footballing and from a personal perspective, it just doesn't look good in general. Like, it's not going to go down well with any kind of fan if this is obviously hanging over his head. And the best thing for United to do in this situation, in my opinion, is to suspend him until the investigation's going. Put out a statement that basically says, until further notice, until things are resolved here, United will suspend Antony. We'll obviously help in any way we can towards the case. We will help the victim in this, or the alleged victim in this as well. Just something along those lines, because, you know, United didn't handle the Mason Greenwood thing in the best possible way either. But the overall hope is that maybe they could reflect on it, look at what they did wrong, look at the way that they handled it and go, right, we could have done better here, we could have done better here, we could have worded this better, we could have done this better. They haven't seemingly learned, and it's madness to me that obviously all this has happened, and it's horrible that all this has happened right in the way that it has done, and obviously even quickly, and it's horrible that it happens in general, but it's even worse when it happens so quickly after a similar sort of incident has occurred for the same club and a different player. But I just thought that United could have handled this bigger and better. You know, I just thought they could have handled it much better. I know they've been roped into it themselves, but it just, again, it just seems strange to me that there's no homework done, there's no research done, there's no due diligence on Antony's previous allegation whilst he was in Brazil, whilst that was made in Sao Paulo, before he even made his move to Manchester United. There was no due diligence when the convicted paedophile was allowed to be a guest of honour at a Manchester United women's game that they claimed to have no idea about his sentencing until obviously things were made public there. I don't get it. I also don't get how the club doctor can be assigned to Antony for that night and seemingly no follow-up questions. Now, again, I get that there's confidentiality, and there probably is between, obviously, doctors and patients and everything, but at the same time, there wasn't the slightest inkling of, you know, maybe I should monitor the situation a bit more. Maybe I should seemingly give someone a heads up without giving them a heads up, kind of thing, you know, kind of allude to the fact that maybe we need to keep an eye on this guy going forward. Nothing along those lines. It just seems all rather strange to me that all of these things, and again, they're not exactly connected in any sort of way, them bringing a convicted paedophile to a game, and obviously them not seeking any sort of further information on Antony's girlfriend's seemingly injuries. They're not connected in any sort of way, but they are evidence that this club for a long time has been broken, has been not functioning properly, and has just been letting things seemingly slide, if obviously everything is to be believed. It just seems, like I say, it just seems really weird to me, and it just seems strange to me. I just needed to get this out there. Again, I apologise if I've offended anyone, or maybe if people have taken my points in the wrong way. That was not my intention. If that has been the case, definitely not my intention. I just wanted to approach this from a sort of balanced sort of thing. Like I say, my stance on this is he's innocent until proven guilty. But at the same time, United should take him out the personal and firing line of being in a Manchester United shirt when obviously they take on Brighton when the Premier League football resumes after the international break. I don't understand why they haven't suspended him right now. I don't understand why Brazil have, but they haven't. I don't understand why the lack of communication has been so dry from United over the course of this week. I know that, like I say, I know they've been roped into it themselves, but if they've got nothing to hide, they've got nothing to really worry about, right? They just got to work out their PR a little better in terms of responding to these allegations and responding to what's going on. Like I say, my overall hope is that these allegations are proved false, and, you know, whilst it's not exactly great, if they are proven false for the so-called alleged victims, at least there is going to be nobody that is going to be hurt physically from this, or even maybe damaged from this on terms of the horrific act side that could have potentially happened. That's my overall hope, that there is no alleged victim in this. But at the same time, like I say, these things coming out, everything adding on top of it, the layers to this story that are going on about the club and everything, it doesn't look good. And I'm just hoping that there will be a resolution to this very soon, in terms of what that is. But I call for more due diligence with not just Manchester United, but maybe other clubs as well in general. Maybe they could all learn something from this more. And like I say, the overall hope is that there is no alleged victim in this. Just because it would be horrible to see that if there is. That's just the overall hope. But those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings of myself. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see you and speak to you all again soon in another video. See you soon.